right, guys, how we doing today? Sam here with you. It's Monday. It's October 29th. We're kind of middle of the day. Today, typically we might look at a Bitcoin on Monday. We still not a lot of change there, so we just put up an open poll to our members. Let them choose. We've got 3 cryptocurrencies to look at today. First up here, this is Ripple to the dollar. Now, this is a bit of an update on account because we looked at this, I think it's about a week ago I did a video on this, and we've had not a lot of movement here in terms of expanding the range, but we've had enough to where we could put a potentially bullish count on it. Now, so here I'm on a 1 hour here, and again, I'm just kind of working off of the count that we had previously. There are a few little problems with this count. I don't necessarily love it. And so if we're working on the assumption that the ABC is complete here, we're kind of stretching a little bit here, even if I literally have to stretch the chart to make it look like maybe I've got something here. So we can make a case that we've got enough here to call this a one wave. So we've got some sort of a diagonal. Here's the one wave. Here's the overlap. So you'd have to trade it 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we do get a new high here just by a couple of ticks. And in a diagonal, of course, we're looking for something technical in the 4th as would relate. Now I've got wolf range on here, so let me go back to traditional. Give me a second there. So if we think about where we went here for the 4th to the 5th, well, the ideal spot is the 50. Anywhere from the 38 to the 50 is good in a diagonal. We double top, so we don't get target. Now we're back to visit the 50. So maybe it's an ugly 1. We don't want to give this too much more room down here. But it's possible that we've got a sloppy diagonal here, then now we're just retracing that. Well, there's a couple things to look at here. I'm going to change this back to our wolf range here, and we'll see how we can look at this maybe from a different perspective. So what I'm going to do here, part of what gives you the idea that that the correction is over is moving out of this clearly defined, this very nice channel that we had coming down. I'm just connecting pivot to pivot, and we held it all the way down. We got a couple of choices here. Yes, we've broken out, but we've essentially just gone sideways and haven't done much. So something that I'll often do simply, because we can't add, there's some software products where you can take this and just increase the number of lines. Since we can't do that with TradingView, I'll do it this way. So I will take this channel here that's already established, and I'm just going to clone it, which I do have somewhere here. I have a choice to clone it. Okay, so then I'm going to clone it. Okay, now from that clone, I'm going to just move it over. Now I'll do it 2 ways. So I'll start here and just go over 50%. So it's if you think of, let's see if I do it this way. If you think of it, it's just like it's the range, it's the wolf range. Do it here, just on an angle, right? That's all we're doing. So wolf range is here's your pivot, here's your 50. We're just doing the same thing on an angle. So to carry through with that, let me do that again. So here's the clone, here's the original, here's the clone. So I would go over 50, see if we get anything there. Since we've gone past it now, I'll put this, so this has to be right on top of it there. So do you see what we've got here? So we've just taken this channel, clearly defined, and just cloned it and then gone from the edge. So you shouldn't be able to see it. So we still have this bias that's pulling us down here. Now, do we have something here? Well, of course, you could do the same thing on the way up because we have a bit of a channel here. So I'm going to just zoom in on this section here, and let's pull it in a little bit so we can get a better look at this. Let's see, do I want to auto that? Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so here are those channels that we have that we're working with. So we could do the same thing here. So if I come off my low here, pretty good channel. If I'm just hitting the 2 and the 4, do you see what I've got here? So I've got the 2. So I'm working from the 1 to the 2 to the 4. So we only need 2 to qualify as a channel. Let me get that right on there. But I've got 3, so I've tagged. So you could call this a pretty well-established trend line that has now broken. Well, we can do the same thing. So if I take this and just right-click it, and then I clone it. So I'm going to grab the clone, and I'm just going to do the same thing. It's just like the wolf range, just coming down. So do you see what I've got here? Now I've got I've just put this at 50%. So we're going another 50. If it keeps going, let's see, is that my clone? If it keeps going, I can pull down here, right? So do you see that? So I get I get it coming and going, if you see what I mean, right? So I pull it out here. So I've got this to define if we're going back up again, right? So we're coming back. So essentially what we're doing is we're coming back to retest this angle from the original channel, and then we're testing the 50% of this channel here, right? So we have a potential confluence zone here as we come to this pivot. Maybe we've got something there. So if we're leaning bullish here, and the idea is that we've got some sort of a diagonal here, allowing for this, essentially it's a double top here. If we're going to allow for that, which it's not unreasonable, again, doesn't disqualify the count. It's not normal, as in, well, it happens far fewer than you would more typically see an extension in the fifth, or pardon me, not an extension, but you'd see more, at least maybe 618, the length of the 1 through 3. We don't even get that. So we just stall at the double top. You can just look here. You can look at the Vegas wave. Just they're all three exponential moving averages are just sitting on top of each other. Can't even see them. So do we have trend? Well, you know, a bit of a stretch there. Right? We currently, all we have is a break lower here. Let me get this out of here. So I'm a little pressed to call this any sort of a trend, but we do have a count here that can qualify, and then we can do the same thing here. We can put the wolf range here. So if I just look here, so no surprise here. So if I go up to this one wave here, here's the 50, here's the 150. But since I've got the pivot here, rather than just leave this as the start of the range, I would expand it up to the 3. So now, see, the idea is I'm not going to miss a 50. So I've got a confluence here from swing low, swing high. I'm at the 50. Here, from swing low, swing high, I'm at the 50, and then I've got the median line, or the 50% of this lower range here that I clone, so I have a potential confluence point there. Now, does that, so targets would be, well, we could use the negative 100 here. Would be a perfect doubling of the range. We could go up to the 150 for if we're going to get a good third wave. So these become points. God, that annoys me. This become points of interest here if we're going to bounce around here, as Gann would suggest it, harmonically, right? So right now it looks like the 50s are defining the range both in the channels as well as just swing low to swing high. So this pivot here would be significant. We'd like to see this. If you're a bull, you want to see this holding here, this 50 holding with some decent targets up here. But really, you know, until look at the Vegas wave, just can't even see the lines, right? Until we get some break one way or the other, I would say there's no trade here. Now, there's no new trade. I suppose, you know, if you're just jonesing for a trade, you're a little bit late here, but you haven't gone too far. This is a 60-minute, so you could buy this. I'd put a stop under the 50. That's, again, if you're dying to get long of Ripple, that's not an unreasonable place to be doing it here. You're a little late to the party to chase it here, but that's not a lot of money right there. So I stop below that pivot, as if we're going to break this, next target would be down here, right? So then you would expand this, you would pull this down. Well, let's see, I've already got it once down. All right, so here would be your next target right here. So if we come back down here, the intersection of those two channels would be interesting. So you'd be below the 50, so you'd be challenging this, that looks like the 786 here. So if I split it again, see, I could do the same thing here. So I could just take this, I could clone it. This is another way to do it. I could clone it and pull it down, pull it. Or if I split it, I could do it like that. All right, so this would be a point of interest, and if you don't want to deal with the cloning of it, we could just draw it up again. Or you could take this and add the 25. You could add the 75, right? You get the idea. All right, so this is an area of interest. If this is going to come down here, I'd be paying attention there. All right, so if you buy it here and you take that very small loser, that would be modest. If you take that loser, this would be the next area of interest, and that's what, 0.39, 39.65 would be a reasonable spot here. Just, you know, it's not, you could even round here to 0.4, right? That's a potential area of interest if we're going to get some traction out of this, and then, you know, let's see what kind of reaction we get there before we start putting together some targets. But right now, that just looks, we're just going sideways, right? There's not much more I can add there to that conversation. I just get those tightened up. You want them right on top of each other. All right, so you get the idea. So we've got good range channeling here, just taking these, doubling them, coming back here. If this is going to keep going lower, this is the place that I would be looking for another entry here, looking for a push up to at least the -100. So that's what I see here. So of course, the alternative here is let's just wait and get some sign, some tell as to whether or not we're going to hold internally here, or we're going to start to move higher. All right, that's pretty much what I see here. So much of crypto, we're just quiet. All right, guys, back to you in a minute.